Today we're going to talk about Psychopath Diary, episode 13. 2020 really affected my drama watching ability despite being trapped inside for pretty much the entire year. Any kind of tension in shows would make me super anxious. Things are a little better now. The episode starts with repeating the scene of Dong-sik throwing up in a solitary confinement. We learn that the cell's usual occupant, the guy everyone in the prison hates for smelling bad, has been digging his way out in a Shawshank Redemption-esque manner through the squat toilet. He tells Dong-woo that it took him 4 years here to realise that he needed to escape, and the desperation to do so led him to digging the hole with a spoon and emptying the soil out in the parade ground after stuffing it into his trousers, Great Escape style. Dong-sik, now knowing about the escape route, doesn't want to be an escapee, despite the encouragement of the man who tells him that he can't trust the police to get him out legally. Dong-sik asks him why he hasn't escaped yet, and the guy replies that he's put on too much weight to make it out through the hole now, and that Dong-sik got a better view of the real killer than he did 8 years ago. So he's more likely to get true justice done. Plus the other prisoner only has a small amount of his sentence left, so escaping doesn't really do anything for him. We get to witness Dong-sik throwing up again as he tries to remember what the killer's face looked like. His faith in Bo-kyung being able to help him from the outside remaining overwhelming. Inu has finally achieved his father's recognition and peruses his weapon collection whilst listening to violin music. Bo-kyung and her Hubei visit her parents' house after the death of her uncle, and we feel the weight of his loss and Bo-kyung's adamant belief that it was not an accident. Back at the prison, Dong-sik realises just how badly he's been played by the real killer and rages, which, considering everything he's been through to this point, is perfectly understandable. He resorts to pulling on his hair as he berates what he sees as his own stupidity. And finally, Dong-sik finally decides that he's getting out of here, and to do that, he meets the prison governor. His office is bright and friendly looking, filled with brightly coloured flowers, something that contrasts with the greyness of the prison proper. It acts both as a symbol of Dong-sik's hope that asking for an attorney will lead to his freedom, and as a way of fostering good feelings for the prison governor in the minds of the audience, which in of itself is contrasted by his behaviour towards Dong-sik once he finds out the reason for his visiting, is to request a retrial. He thinks that Dong-sik is guilty, and using the death of Bo-kyung's uncle to cause more pain. He goes so far as to call Dong-sik not human and say he deserves to die in prison. Dong-sik is dragged back to the cells. We learn that So Inu's tendrils of corporate corruption reach even to the prison system, as he bribes the governor to restrict Dong-sik's access to visitation and phone calls. He won't be able to get a retrial without Bo-kyung, and now they have no way of contacting each other. Bo-kyung, acting on her intuition that the death of her uncle was fishy, heads over to the police district that is dealing with the case, only to find out that they've already let the driver who crashed into her uncle's car go. His lawyers wanting to pay the bereaved family off. Money is doing the talking here too. Bo-kyung's suspicion is only growing in light of this, and now she's pretty sure that her uncle knew the real killer, and that's why he's dead. Dong-sik's faith in her is still strong, despite the urging to escape from his newfound friend. He uses the scary persona that he's developed to deal with the other prisoners, on some of them looking for trouble in the prison yard. Bo-kyung and the rookie police officer try to visit the driver, but find out that he and his family have suddenly emigrated from his neighbour. They decide to go visit Dong-sik, but as his visitation has been rescinded, it's a no-go, with the prison guard telling them it was because he was under disciplinary measures. After being blocked like this, Bo-kyung decides to go through her uncle's stuff to see if there's any clue as to the killer. At his house, she finds a tape recorder with a damaged tape inside. She uses her father's tape player, as her uncle's was damaged in the crash, and she's able to decipher that there is in fact information about the killer on it, but it will need to be treated so that it's understandable. Bo-kyung goes to visit someone who can do this, but goes alone to an empty, creepy-looking place at night. 100% the sort of place that is where people get kidnapped in movies, and she gets kidnapped. Because of course she does. But it turns out to be Dong-shik's dream manifesting his fears that the real killer would go after her. Something that later goes on to actually happen, with Inu grabbing her as she tries to get the tape fixed. Dong-woo manages to get hold of a mobile phone from another prisoner and tries to get hold of Bo-kyung, only for Inu to pick up the phone silently before he steals the recording. Dong-shik realises the real killer has her and reports to the police that she's in danger. He gets caught by a prison guard and starts a riot in order to get put back into solitary confinement. Despite the smell, Dong is determined to escape to save Bo-kyung and uses his memory of Shawshank Redemption to pull through. During his escape attempt, a cell inspection starts, and the prisoner who dug the original hole tries to give Dong-shik enough time to get out by holding his door closed from the inside. The big question here is, why the fuck you would have a cell door that opens inwards? Surely that's a massive safety issue, like you could lay in front of the door to stop it opening. Dong-shik makes it out of the prison and has to cross a river. Inu drives Bo-kyung to a semi-deserted place near a river and puts in place steps to make what he's going to do look like a suicide. But the police, now notified of Dong-shik's escape, are taking the threat to Bo-kyung's safety seriously and are out looking for her, which doesn't give Inu a lot of time. This is also helped by the fact that Dong-shik phones in a threat to Bo-kyung's life, which now, with him having escaped, seems a lot bigger than it was before. It seems a lot more realistic, a threat, than before. The police find Bo-kyung and release her before Inu's plan can take place, leaving him enraged at having his plans interrupted, and her with the knowledge that someone has stolen the tape. Inu makes it home only to find his father there and very close to his secret room, and it's very obvious that he knows his son is hiding something, and probably exactly where that something is. Because if Inu is a shark, his dad is the biggest shark. Due to the attempt on her life, the kidnapping and Dong-shik's escape, Bo-kyung gets put on leave from work and given a guard as they try to recapture him. We see how the other people from his life are reacting, with his colleagues arguing and his parents' restaurant filled with undercover police officers hoping to catch him if he comes home. In an effort to prevent this from happening, his father shouts out the front door that Dong-shik is no longer his son. This action has the desired effect of Dong-shik overhearing it and scarpering to the one place and person he has left. The police know that he's in Seoul, but Inu hasn't left any evidence of his kidnap of Bo-kyung. She now believes that Dong-shik has escaped and come to Seoul in order to give her evidence, so she evades her guard to go look for him. But he's not alone in this, as Inu is chasing him down too. Dong-shik meets up with Gangpei Joshi, who, despite Dong-shik's fears, isn't annoyed at his lack of transparency, but at his very conspicuous clothing, bright pink clothes he stole from some old lady. Gangpei Joshi gives him a block of tofu, a traditional gift to someone that's just left prison, the eating of which symbolises determination to live a new reformed life, or to, at the very least, not get caught again. Dong-shik cries at this and calls Gangpei Joshi by his real name, Chil-sung. Dong-shik talks about how Bo-kyung is the only one he can trust, hurting Chil-sung in the process, who values their brotherhood deeply. They both end up crying. – 东西 looks remarkably ugly doing so. We learn some truths about Chilsung, namely that he's bad at fighting, and so he tells the lads in the gang that he only fights for justice, and that's why he still respects Dongshik, even if he isn't the hardened killer he thought he was. The two of them try to figure out a way of getting a message to Bo-kyung that only she will understand. They head to the escape room they spent so much time in before. They find a letter with a place and time for meeting. Bo-kyung uses her father to make it to the meeting place, but Inu tips off the police, and he's excited as to what the outcome of this will be.